Welcome back students in this series of Munstack technology. So in this module we are learning about CSS. In the previous video we have discussed about the syntax of CSS and some basic selectors used in CSS. Before moving on to the CSS series, let's discuss what is a CSS command, which is a very important part of CSS or any other language. On almost every language like Python, Java, JavaScript, CSS, HTML, we have a concept of comments. So what is a comment? Comments are used to explain the code and may help when you edit the source code at a later date. So basically comment is a simple line that a program or that a browser cannot understand. So comments are just literally ignored by the browser. So if you write down a comment, that is purely for the developer, that so he can get an idea or get a help when he used to update any kind of code into the later on stages. So comments are basically placed inside the style element and starts with the slash star. So let me show you programmatically how we can use comments and how comments are useful into the CSS parts. Let's see. Now, if I want to add some kind of documentation or some kind of information about anything into the CSS, for comment, we'll write down star asterisk and this is the comment ending. So let's describe this element. So we'll write down here we have selected the paragraph by the CSS ID selector. So this is nothing, it is not a code, but it is just a simple line to explain that this code consists of a ID selector which is used to connect to this paragraph over here. So this is how you can add documentation to your code to make it much clear. So I'll write another comment about this. I'll write down this is a class selector. So this is how you can add multiple lines to make your code more understandable and more readable. Now, next let's discuss about this color. In CSS, a color can be specified using predefined colors name. So you can write down red, green, blue. There are a lot of predefined colors in CSS. You can easily use them. Almost every color you can name is present into the CSS. But other than that, if you want to go for a complex color, a color that you can't name or you can't remember, so you can use a RGB hexacolor code and HSL. RGB stands for red, green, blue. You can add the percentage of red, green and blue part and create a color. Next you can write down a hexacolor code, hexadecimal color code with the HEX followed by a hash. Also you can use a HSL, which is hue, saturation and lightness. This is also a way to define a color. So let me show you a website where you can find out hexacolor codes. So I'll write hexacolor codes. So in this website you can create your own colors. For example, let me show you. So if I want this color to be background of some element into HTML, so this is basically known as the hexacolor code. So over here you can see HEX has DOE 6B7. So this is known as a hexacolor code, which is a 6-digit color code. So now let's do one thing. Let's create a H1 tag. This is my page heading, and now let's give it a ID of head and style this heading. So I'll write down dot head. Now let's say let me add a background color. Now for the background color, I'll go to the hexacolor code website over here and copy this text. Now I'll add this into my HTML like this. So I'll save this and let's check the output. So now you can see by using a hexacolor code, we just change the background of our heading tag. Same as let's try another color. So let's create a color from this. So I want this color. So let's copy this color and paste it in color by, and you can see the output here. So it is not looking as good. Let's change it and make it somehow darker by changing this to, copy this and change the color. Let's save this. So the output will be changed. Now it's looking somehow better than the previous one. Now it is looking somehow better than the previous one. So this is how you can use this hexagonal code. Also we have the RGB color codes. For RGB, let's say if I have a paragraph and I want to add a RGB color code, let me show you example. First of all, let's select a RGB color code. So let's take this color as an example. This color as an example. So RGB is 170, 240, 153. This is basically red, green and blue. So every color on this spectrum is created by adding three colors, red, green and blue. So this RGB defines the portion of red, portion of green and portion of blue to be used to create that particular color. Now let's select this H2 tag by element selector. We'll write H2. Now let's give the background color by pasting that RGB. So this is how you can paste RGB over here. This is how your RGB color code will work. Let's take another example. Now let's add a background color. Okay, background is set. Let's just the font color. So let's create this color. Now RGB is this. For RGB, we have to put it into brackets. Let's save this and check the output. You can see the color is changed to the reddish color. So this is how you can use the RGB colors. Next we have the HSL color, which is hue, saturation and lightness. Let's take an example of HSL. So this is here HSL, which is into percentage we can say. So for this, let's take another example and copy this HSL and select this by the element selector H3. Now let's add the color and HSL color. For HSL, like this we add the pattern. So this is the HSL. Let's save this out and check the output. So this is the output you can see. Now let's add a background also by the HSL. Let's add this as a background. This is a background color. Now let's check the output. Here you can see. So this is the hexagonal color code. This is done by RGB color codes and this is done by the HSL color codes. So this is how in HTML you can add CSS colors to multiple elements by using the hexagonal codes, simple names, the RGB color codes and the HSL color codes. In the next video, we'll discuss about some more properties like borders, margin, padding, etc. Thank you so much for watching this video.